Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the largest gated community in North America, spanning 26,000 acres in the Ouachita Mountains in south central Arkansas. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and some occasional guests as we explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live, kvre.com. HSV Inside Out is sponsored by Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there. Also sponsored by McGraw Realtors, located in the heart of Hot Springs Village, the fastest growing real estate office with over 30 agents and staff. Executive brokers Lori and Ken Henderson, along with realtor and waterfront specialist Rick Marshall, they're eager to share the special features of Hot Springs Village with you. For a complimentary relocation packet, call Ken and Lori at 501-276-3018 or Rick Marshall at 501-601-RICK. They are McGraw Realtors of Hot Springs Village. All right, we're sitting here with Ike Eisenhower State Farm, and Ike, I've gotten a number of questions, and we're going to go through all these. So I'm going to encourage you in the future, if you got any questions about insuring anything or just the way this stuff works, especially here in Hot Springs Village, then please leave us a comment or let us know. First question, Ike, an audience member called me, and they've got this big gun collection, mostly pistols. Couldn't tell you anything about it because I'm not a collector. And it sent me down the bunny trail of people who've got collections that they want to insure. And I understand, because we talked before, that people can have gun safes and maybe they don't even want people knowing that they've got guns. But not just gun collections, but any kind of collectible. And is it common or is it uncommon for people to insure these? And what should we be thinking about if we've got, and I'm talking about people that have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I was telling Ike before we hit the record button, my wife does sewing, and she sews custom doll dresses. And there are ladies who have these really expensive $2,000 to $3,000 dolls, and she'll make these dresses for them. And some of these collections they're extensive, and they're worth a lot of money. I can't imagine, something happening to those in a fire or something. It would be tens of thousands of dollars lost. So talk to us about insuring collectibles.
So when we are insuring collectibles, we do it under a personal articles policy. So it's a very broad coverage. There's very few exclusions on something like that. And you can cover anything from jewelry to fine arts to collectibles to sporting equipment. There's cameras, lots of things that you can cover under a personal articles policy. And so it is pretty common for people to do it. It's a little trickier than other things because a lot of times you need an appraisal or you need a schedule of what items you have. Sometimes you can do things on a blanket basis, like take sports cards, like baseball cards, whatever, or coin collections, stamp collections, where you're constantly buying and selling, and it's a fluxing, and you can cover something like that on a blanket basis. So yeah, it is fairly common. Most common things we do under policies like that would be artwork and jewelry and furs.
And talk to me about the cataloging of these things, because that has come up. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming in this day and age we got these phones that take photographs. Best to take photographs if you can record serial numbers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Spreadsheet, if you can make a spreadsheet or a list or something, that would be good. A lot of these things, because we're establishing a value, you're going to have some kind of either an appraisal or let's say it's a coin collection that's not that big. Let's say it's a $3,000 coin collection. You can itemize those things by finding the values in a catalog, and that would work too, or online somehow or other. But if you get into high dollar stuff, $10,000 or more, generally something like that we'll need an appraisal for, and so it's a little bit cumbersome. But if you really want to protect your items, it's good to have that list.
Are there, and I'm not trying to get into specifics on rates, but obviously it's going to be based on the value of the collection. Mm-hmm. Are there other factors?
It's going to be based on also the type of thing that you're insuring. Okay. So things that are more breakable or damaged easier, you might pay a little bit more for something like that. People tend to take care of items like that. I've been doing homeowners insurance and personal articles policies and everything for 35 years. You hardly ever have a rate change on these types of things because they're the types of things people value the most. Yeah. And so they take good care of them. And so the rates are fairly low on things like that.
Okay, the second question, I didn't put it on my cheat sheet here because I just remembered it. We have a big chunk of our audience that are pre-retirement. Mm-hmm. And they're considering Hot Springs Village, and they're inquiring about buying or building a house here and short-term renting the thing, but they haven't been in that game before.
Right.
And so we have these conversations, Airbnb and some of these others, they have in-house kind of insurance, but I have personally, and I have no experience at it, other than I'm a guy who's real high about risk mitigation. Mm-hmm. So I've told them I would not personally, you do what you want to do. I would not trust Airbnb's insurance. I would do something else. So if somebody's buying a house here and they want to rent it, either short-term rental, let's stay with that because that seems to me most common. Mm-hmm. If they could rent it out for a couple of years before they come here full-time, the insurance challenges of being a short-term rental operator, and your advice would be?
I would say when you're talking about having a house as a rental house, your homeowner's policy accommodates things like that. So sometimes you have somebody, it's their actual house that they rent out, and your homeowner's policy can accommodate that, up to a limited time per year. But most of the time, if people have a rental house, that's the sole purpose, and so we just do it as a rental dwelling. And that's okay. It used to be we only liked long-term rentals, but as Airbnb and VRBO have really become big, the policies have changed, and we are now taking short-term rentals, and so we just do them as rental dwellings.
But if a couple they come and they visit and they decide to buy a house here that they want to be their retirement home full-time, but they're 2 years away from that.
Oh, yeah.
So in that intervening time,
they rent it out.
They want to rent it out, but they want to come and visit a handful of times a year. Same
thing. I think as far as IRS rules, you're only allowed so many nights that you're allowed to stay in there and still consider it something like that. So anyway, that's more of a tax question. But yeah, I mean, certainly we can do something like that. We would still do as a rental dwelling, even if you're occupying the house for a small portion of the year.
And what are the pitfalls or other things to consider? And keep in mind, the people that I'm hearing from don't do this because they're at this stage of life and they're just thinking it may be a way for us to take the next step, buy a house, help defray some expenses because clearly they've got a house where they're at. For 2 years, just try to defray some expenses by renting it out. But things like umbrella policies and other things to consider if you're operating.
You can cover something like that under your umbrella policy, so you can have your liability coverage on the rental dwelling in case you get sued for something that causes bodily injury or property damage. So you have that protection, and then your umbrella policy can come in on top of that and give you another $1 million or $2 million or whatever, and so you can get extra coverage on top of that. And so that's a good idea another good idea to have a liability umbrella policy, because it's your most important coverage is protecting yourself against a big lawsuit.
Do you have any insights of people that are frankly approaching that with really risky behavior? Because it just seems to me, in talking to people, and this is purely anecdotal, because Airbnb offers insurance and people just, and maybe I'm wrong, I mean, maybe that's great and ideal. I've just told our audience members, if it were me, there's no way I'm just letting that be my first level of safety net. May be fine, but I'm not going to trust that.
Right.
And I hate to put you on the spot, but I am. I mean, am I thinking wrongly?
No, you're not. And to be honest, I mean, we have a building that we fixed up in Hot Springs ourselves. It's right down near Bathhouse Row. We have 5 apartments in it. It's an old abandoned hotel from 100 years ago.
Yeah, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, and we fixed it up, and we've got 5 rentals there, and we've got it insured through State Farm, and don't have any other coverage there. You know, Airbnb may offer some additional insurance there. I'm not sure exactly what it covers, and I'm not sure
I'm not
the
either.
value of that. So anyway.
And what's the link? Because you've got a website to your properties.
Right.
So tell us what if people want to go check out your apartment.
Yeah, it has it's a really cool place. Maison 226 is what we call it. MAISON 226.com. And it has a French name because it's New Orleans themed, and so each apartment has a lot of jazz paintings and New Orleans themed art, and it's got the old bricks from 100 years ago. It's a really cool place. Maison226.com.
Yeah, it's very unique. If you want to come and visit, that would be a great place to headquarter.
Yes.
When you're coming and checking out the village and
walking
whatnot.
Distance to everything on Bathhouse Row, but you're a block away from Central Avenue, so it's quiet.
And while we're on it, sidebar here, because I get asked this. So if somebody came and they rent one of your suites to stay for 3 or 4 days, access to the village, how would that work? How could they get inside the village as being your guest there? Can you get them in the gate here if they want to come and scope out the village?
Yeah, we could, just like any other visitor that, because we live in the village, so we can give access to our guests and so forth. So yeah, they would just have to contact us and we can sign them in as a guest.
Yeah, so there you go. That answers that question. Okay, people visited with Rick Marshall recently of McGraw Realtors, another sponsor of the show, and we're thankful for them and for you for helping us be able to do these. And Rick, as we were touring this house and we were doing an update last month, and he was talking about the majority of existing homes, people really just kind of want to sell them as is. They don't want to go to the trouble and the expense of remodeling. However, the people that do go to that trouble, those houses are selling much quicker for obvious reasons.
Right.
People they kind of want to be able to open the door and move in, and they don't want to have a bunch of workers and stuff. So I've had some feedback from that show, from people that do come here. They buy a home and they're willing to do that renovation, and they've never done that before. But the curiosity is, so if we come here and we buy a home, pick any price that you want just for example purposes, and then we're going to sink another $100,000 into it, what that looks like, that pre and post remodel insurance coverage looks like. Clearly it's going to be worth more after the fact. but I've gotten a few emails inquiring how that works because, again, these are people later in life, but they've not done that before.
Yeah. Most important thing there is just making sure you have enough coverage on the house in order to rebuild it. So, what an insurance policy is going to cover, it doesn't cover market value or anything like that. It's going to cover construction cost. So if you're taking off old counters, let's say old laminate counters, and you're putting granite counters in there, or you're fixing up flooring, so you're doing things that are higher in value or in cost to replace. And so when we insure the house, we're going to insure it on an estimate of what it takes to rebuild the house. But if you're going to be putting more and more stuff in there, we can always reevaluate that coverage amount and bump it up to accommodate for the extra cost of being able to replace the house.
Any concerns in the interim? Let's say that this is a 6-month project, and in month 1, they do something and that ups the value significantly, and every month. How do you handle that?
Well, it's best to just put it on there in the front end then.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be something like that, you just put it on the front end, and that would be fine.
All right, our last question for today. Lot of conversation about insurance rates. We've talked about that before, especially with tornado activity and whatnot. And I know State Farm has done some things on the automotive side that have really helped drive your business, which, I'd like you to talk about that. But the question is, well, you can shop a rate, but when you need it, if something happens, something catastrophic happens, and now you need somebody to show up with the money in hand, that can be a completely different conversation than the fact of a rate.
Right.
So, you've clearly got a bias for State Farm, and so do we as you being a sponsor of the show, but increasingly that's a big deal, and I've had conversations with some people that did suffer from the tornado, and State Farm has always gotten really high marks for showing up when you need to show up.
Right.
So as you're talking to prospective customers, and since we are hopefully talking to prospective customers, to all of that, you would say what?
I would say, well, what you pay for insurance is important, but what you buy is important too. And we like to think we do both well. We're still pretty competitive on the homeowner side and the auto side. So our rates are decent. Auto rates are actually coming down now. So we had back in 2022 or so, industry-wide, just auto rates spiked because as people came out of COVID and started driving again, there were a lot of factors that drove auto insurance high. Like, for instance, used cars went up 40% in value. So now every time we're replacing a car, we're replacing it with 40% more cost to it. And so that passes on to us in terms of insurance rates. And so we have to account for things like that. And so, used car costs haven't really come down that much since.
Right.
They're still way up there. But we're starting to see some relief on the auto side. Our company, State Farm, we just this year are introducing a new auto policy. So the old auto policies that we've been doing for 100 years are gone. We're rolling out a new auto policy, and we're finding that to be really competitive. In fact, with a week left in this month, we've already set an auto insurance production record. In other words, we've written more auto policies than we've ever written in my 27 years over here. And so that's going really well. And we're about to set a same thing on the fire side, on the homeowners and boats and personal articles and umbrella policies. And and an overall production record. So that tells me that we're very competitive on the rate side. So as far as the claim side, we do pride ourselves, and we've been the number one insurer of autos for since 1942. 83 years we've been number one in auto. And on the homeowner side, we've been the number one homeowners insurer in America since 1964. And so you don't get that way without having good claim service. And so in a very challenging time, the homeowners market is in a lot of flux these days. A lot of companies they're pulling out of the markets. They're raising rates. A lot of companies are depreciating for roofs. So like if you have hail damage on a roof and your roof is 15 years old, you might only get paid for half the cost to replace it or less. And so there's things like that are rolling out. We don't do that yet, but and I don't think that's in the works right now. But right now we're still paying full replacement cost on roofs. Most companies have gone to percentage deductibles for wind and hail. So now instead of your old $1,000 deductible or a 0.5% deductible, 0.5% of the coverage amount of the house, now you're talking about 1 or 2% of the value of the house for a roof claim. And so if you've got a $300,000 house, you might be looking at $3,000 or $6,000 for wind and hail claims. And so, and that's just something that companies are doing to survive, to be able to stay in the market. Because 2 years ago, for every dollar we took in, we spent $2 in claims. Last year, it was more like $1.60 or so, and that's unsustainable for us. And most companies are going through that, but and we've had our round of massive rate increases. That's kind of abated. It's come down a little bit. And now they're kind of trying to tackle the rest of it with coverage changes, and mostly trying to limit that exposure we have for hail and tornadoes. Where if we do have a hail event or a tornado event, we're not quite so out of pocket as we have been in the past.
Well, and a big chunk of our audience, we hear from people in the Carolinas, especially in Florida, because of the hurricanes over there and the rate increases. Well, and in Florida, the companies that are leaving the state. So they're having a real challenge. So a number of our audience are looking at Hot Springs Village as an alternative.
Yeah, and we've had some companies pull out of Arkansas, and there's been some of that, but not as much as in the other states. California's insurance market is just crazy right now. It's just I don't know how that's going to get fixed. But Florida, I mean, since Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, Florida's been a mess. And it's really, really hard to have an insurance policy, charge an appropriate rate, and stay in that market and be able to make enough money to pay claims.
Be competitive. The other thing I would encourage our audience to do is go back and watch the tour that we did of Ike's office and the people that are here, because when it comes to the claims side and the service side, as well as the sales side, as we said in that video, Ike's not a one-man band here. At the end of a strip center, you got a lot of folks here. So when you call here, you're gonna get service, and these people, I don't know. I mean, I was pretty amazed at the tenure. He doesn't have just a bunch of rookies running around here. He's got some people that have been here for a long, long time.
Yeah, there's 10 of us. We're all licensed, and I've got them from hired them last year to been with me for 25 years. I've got 3 that are over 15 years. I've got my top producers are like 5 years and 3 years, and they're doing really well. I've got 2 that are training to become State Farm agents right now, and they're top caliber folks. And my service team, tons of experience, and we really drive home the point all the time. It's all about customer service. You gotta take care of the customers. In an insurance company, you've got the underwriters that nobody ever sees. You got the claims adjusters that you only see if there's a claim. We're the face of State Farm, and so we have got to represent the company that way. And it's all about taking care of customers. I make my money by having happy customers, by trying to keep customers happy, because then they stay with me, and if they leave me, then it hurts me, And so it's all about trying to take care of the customers, And so that's what we preach here.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we're going to leave. We've got his phone number and links to his website. And again, if you want to come and rent one of their bedroom suites, big opportunity. You can be in Hot Springs. They're gorgeous. The photography is good. It shows them accurately on the website. So I'd encourage you to come and visit Hot Springs Village. And as I tell you all the time, you're liable to want to stay. Thanks for watching Hot Springs Village Inside Out. You'll find all our episodes at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com or on YouTube.